Welcome to Just Saying the Obvious, and I'm your host, Dennis Conforto. Today's topic is another controversial one. It's about ICE and why they have to wear masks. So let's get to it.
I'm just saying the obvious, straight talk, nothing mysterious. If you want it real, come ride with us. I'm just saying the obvious.
Normally, law enforcement in most states works closely with ICE. As a result, two agents get to go to the courthouse or the jail to pick up a known criminal to process them. There's no mask that is needed in that kind of environment. But why? Why did ICE, in certain situations, have to wear a mask? Well, the answer to that question has to do with the cartel. As you know, the cartel has been declared a terrorist organization because they commit terrorist acts. Now, how do we know that? Well, it's pretty simple. They have been responsible for the death of over 2 million Americans in the last 20 years. They do all sorts of heinous crimes, from beheadings to boiling people alive in oil, to burying people alive, to executing publicly politicians in their home countries that don't support the cartels in a manner that the cartels need to have them support them. So there's all sorts of examples by the hundreds of thousands of what the cartel is doing south of the border. In fact, most of Mexico, the country of Mexico, is completely dominated and controlled by the cartel and their influence. The cartel is a multi-billion-dollar organization. They're not just an organization in North America. They are tied with other organizations throughout the world that are also declared terrorist organizations. They have alliances with terrorist groups in the Middle East. And in the Middle East, they are doing business with them and their drugs and bringing drugs from the Middle East, like poppy, to make heroin coming from Afghanistan and distributed by the cartels. The cartels are the masters of distribution of everything that we don't want in this country. They're the masters of distribution of drugs. They're the masters of distribution of humans, sex trafficking, and even sex trafficking of children. I mean, think, for example, of how we ended up with 300,000 children that we lost in the United States that came across our open borders during the Biden administration and then magically disappeared. We have no idea where those children are at. Not only does the cartel have alliances with terrorist organizations in the Middle East because they have such expertise of moving humans across our border, we know for a fact that they have moved terrorists and terror cells from Mexico into the United States in cooperation with these terror cells coming out of the Middle East. We violated every rule that you can think of when we opened the borders during the Biden administration that were rules outlined to us by the 9/11 Commission of how to protect our country. I'm not sure what Homeland Security was doing during the Biden administration, but they were doing the opposite of everything that everybody knew we had to do to keep us safe. But the cartel also has relationships with China. And with China, they were taking in their fentanyl, mixing it in with the drugs that they were producing and distributing in Mexico into the United States. But they were also using China to launder all of their money. We just saw a big bust in Georgia where the Chinese were laundering billions of dollars of cartels' cash, taking a commission, but cleaning up that cash so that it could work within the global financial system. So this is a very, very sophisticated organization. And this is why they were flagged by the Trump administration as a terrorist organization. I think it dawned on me probably during the Reagan administration that the cartel was a terrorist organization. But it took until Donald Trump for the obvious to be declared. The cartel are terrorists. So that gets us down to what makes the cartel so powerful in the United States. Well, they have an army of lawyers. In fact, it wouldn't surprise you or shouldn't surprise you that nobody knows our immigration laws legally better than the cartel. They are the masters of these laws as they figure out how to get the gentle sheep coming from South and Central America mixed in with their wolves to cross the border to wreak havoc on our nation. The cartel literally has operations in every state in the union, but their big centers of operation are in sanctuary cities. This is where they are protected by local law enforcement who are getting directions of how to administer those laws by governors and mayors. So where an ICE agent normally would go in a red state to pick up a known criminal who is an illegal alien from a jail or a courthouse, the jails and courthouses in sanctuary states and cities are just letting these individuals back into society. Now we know that the law enforcement of ICE is working because murders are down 20%. And just to give you a number, that's 20% represents about 4,000 Americans. That murder rate represents 11 Americans per day. So it's a really big deal of what the administration has accomplished by deporting 800,000 criminal elements out of the United States. We actually, I don't think, really know how many criminals are here in the United States, but slowly they are figuring out by getting cooperating data, vetting data from the countries where these individuals came from to mix in with our databases to begin to hunt and search them out. If you go to a jail and you are an officer of the law in those jails, oftentimes a prisoner becomes belligerent and starts havoc in their own cell. And so the officers have to get in riot gear, which includes masks. They have to cover themselves completely because the prisoner is so upset that they begin to target specific individuals if they know and can identify them who came into the cell to subdue them. If you don't think that the cartel has the technology of facial recognition and using databases to find out where the homes are of our ICE agent, you would seriously be denying the reality and power and scope of the cartel. They have a lot of influence and a lot of power. I would even suggest to you that their money flows into the legal systems. They are probably the world's experts in how do you make a city a sanctuary city? How do we use the sheep that we brought into the country as the vehicle for hiding our wolves that are among them so that we can keep our business operations open? Now, there's no doubt that the Trump administration, by shutting and sealing the borders, has crushed the cartel's cash flow and business. And the cartel has nothing left if they can't get new people and new gangs into the United States to keep the gangs that they have here in place. And so sanctuary cities is a perfect vehicle for being able to do that. And this is what happens when people are using their empathy to mask the wolves that are there. And nobody knows how to use that empathy better than the cartels. I mean, they understand this game very well. They understand our political system very well. In the meantime, we have an army of lawyers defending illegal migrants coming into the country that our taxpayers are, our tax dollars are paying for. And so there is a whole massive business, another multi-billion-dollar business that is just totally ripping off the taxpayers. Now, I don't know about you. I know about me. I can't imagine under any circumstances of entering into another country illegally. I just can't imagine doing that. And I'm speaking as a person who was homeless living on the streets of Seattle. I would have never thought, like, I'm going to sneak across the border into Canada and change my name or identity or whatever. I can't even conceive that I would do that at all. And on the other side of the coin, I can't conceive of having the cartel transfer me into Canada, spending $10,000 I didn't have because I was homeless, and then owing them, and then somehow in Canada inadvertently working for the cartel, because this is exactly what's happening. Now, is that happening with all illegal aliens coming into the country? Of course not. Are there plenty of good and noble people that have come across that border? Absolutely. We know 2 million of them were good and noble because we invited them to go back to their home country, gave them a free flight, and anywhere from $1,000 to $2,600 to go back to their home country and come back to our country and get in line and apply legally. Which brings up another point. We have every right to decide how many people we need in our country. To have 25 million, we think, flow into the country fouled up everything. It fouled up our housing markets. And of course, the Democrats will tell you that we don't fund any benefits at a federal level to illegal aliens. We don't do it. But how they have made that workaround happen is they fund the states, and the states then fund the illegal aliens for their health care and food that they need to survive. And in fact, in the sanctuary cities, some of these cities, these people that have all of this income, all of this free housing, all of this free food, 70, 80% of them are still unemployed. I mean, why on earth would they try to get a job when they have all of this free stuff going into their coffers? As an American, I never had the opportunity to have that. As a homeless person, I will tell you, in 1970, when I was homeless, there was no government program for me to save me. Nothing. I had nothing. And I thank God every day there wasn't a government program to fund my homelessness. I'm just very grateful that I had to figure it out, that I had to pull myself out of the gutter. The last 2 weeks that I was homeless, I hadn't had a meal. I was literally starting to starve to death, and never once did I think of how can I get something for free. I just wanted to work. That's a whole nother story. So billions are flowing into the United States legal systems from the cartel. Billions are flowing into media organizations funded by the cartel with various front groups. And this has created an environment that is really toxic in the country because we have two groups with empathy. There's the one group that has empathy for the citizens of the United States, empathy for legal immigrants coming into the country, and empathy even for the illegals to say you need to go home and come back into the country legally. You need to actually be invited into our house, and you need to sign the guest list to come through the door. Then there's the empathy for the illegal aliens who are being protected by the cartels, where the gangs are hidden within, because that empathy says, well, why should there even be borders? Well, it's obvious why there should be borders, because our country, the most powerful nation in the world, has more enemies as a result of that power than any other nation on earth. We are a target. 9/11 taught us clearly that we are ground zero for certain groups, terrorist groups. And our wealth has attracted illegal activity like drugs, like human trafficking, sex trafficking, and body part trafficking, and children trafficking. It's clearly dangerous to everyone. And the only way to stop this from happening is force our immigration laws to work. Now, a lot of people say, well, our immigration laws are broken. They're not broken. They were broken by those who decided not to enforce them. That's how they're broken. Our immigration laws are so good that almost virtually every other country in the world has copied our immigration laws. So our laws are broken when we ignore them. And that's exactly what the Democrats did. Now, I thank God every day for the ICE agents that have to go out and do their job. Most of them do their job unmasked, but there are certain areas where they have to go in masked. And we all know the cities, they're all there. We see it all the time. They have a different set of rules that they go by. It could be LA, it could be Portland, it could be Seattle, it could be Chicago, it could be Minneapolis, it could be New York, where they violate federal law and create this conflict. And so instead of two agents going to a courthouse or jail to pick up a known criminal, they have to send 6 to 8 agents to go and find them in the community. Super dangerous for the community by releasing them back into the community. Super dangerous when 8 agents have to go out and find them. In a jail, they're certainly not armed, but when they go out and find them, they may be totally armed, and they may be armed to the hilt, and there may be a group of them, not just one, but many, when they enter into a home to find the one. And of course, if you get citizens involved in signal chats, acting like they're going to be super agents of their own and trying to dox and track agents, burn their cars, throw rocks at them, the agents all of a sudden have to go not only from a mask, but they have to go to protect themselves from the cartel, who are going to find them, hunt them down, threaten their wives, threaten their children, threaten their husband, threaten their grandchildren. We have no idea how far the cartel will go. Well, we actually do. We all do know how far they'll go. They'll go as far as they need to go to keep that business model open in the United States. They will go to the limit of pain and suffering to figure out how to infiltrate every law enforcement group in the United States. And of course, the most dangerous one to them right now is ICE. And so when the citizens get involved, blocking cars and doing all of the stuff that they're doing and going out of their way to photograph agents, the agents really have to then mask up, but they have to go a little further. They also have to armor up. Why? Because these people are throwing rocks at them. They're throwing ice bottles at them. They're throwing bricks at them. They have to goggle up because they're getting spit in the face and screamed at. And so it creates a very dangerous environment. So you can have 2 agents, you can have 8 agents, or you can have 16 agents going out and doing what 2 could have done easily. If you don't want the ICE agents masked, then don't put them in a position where they're exposed to the power and might of the cartel. Now, every police force has implemented mask policies, especially when they're dealing with gangs. Not only gangs that are already in the jail, but gangs that are out on the street. They do it for the same reason, to protect their lives and the lives of the officers' family. I have a daughter who's a detective, a police law enforcement in another state, and she has to be very careful about her picture on social media. Every restaurant she goes in, she looks around to see if anybody recognizes her that she may have put in jail. She can't actually live in the community where she is doing her detective and police work. She has to live in another community because it's too dangerous for her. And that's true of virtually every law enforcement officer in the United States. We don't pay these people enough. We don't thank them enough. The thin blue line is a very thin line in deed. So I'm grateful that most of the ICE agents aren't masked. Policy and protecting their lives require them to be masked. And it's just pretty obvious. I know if I was being filmed and the cartel was looking for me and I was trying to protect the citizens of the United States, I would be masked. I would be masked. So be grateful for these ICE agents who put their lives on the line. And then think about the blue states that say they're going to hunt these ICE agents down for saving the 4,000 lives of Americans that we have saved just by reducing the murder rate by 20%. Think how much that murder rate will go down as we continue to deal with the illegal criminal activity in the United States. And think how much the murder rate and crime rate will go down if we just enforce the laws. Not only enforce the laws for illegal aliens, but for legal aliens and for citizens of this country. We all need to comply to these laws. If our politicians allow us to break the law, make it easy by ignoring the implementation of the laws through judges and DAs and attorney generals, then we have a society where we just have to simply expect and accept that murder is just a byproduct of living in the United States. I reject that thought completely. I don't think it should be normal. I think that the 2 million people that died at the hands of the cartel should have never died at their hands. It's just obvious to me. Again, my name is Dennis, and I'm just saying the obvious once again.
Pull up a chair, got something to share. Politics, policy, life, we go there. Gun, yeah. Name's Dennis, say it how it is. From the kitchen table talk to the big biz. Headline spinning, but I cut through the spin. If you're tired of the noise, let's begin. I'm just saying the obvious, saying what you're thinking anyway. From the loss to the cost of your coffee cup, to the mess of your everyday. Yeah, I'm just saying the obvious, straight talk, nothing mysterious. If you want it real, come ride with us. I'm just saying the obvious.
I have watched the political and media edit. I have watched this.
On the mic.